Are you looking for an honest opinion on what you can expect to pay for an instrument rating? If so, watch this video because I'm going to walk you through the actual expenses you should expect to incur while obtaining this valuable rating that everyone should consider getting, as well as a few tips on how to save some money. If you're new to the channel, my name is David. I've been a pilot for over 35 years. The last 33 of these years, I've been a certified flight instructor. Of all the things I get to do that revolve around airplanes, the thing I enjoy the most is simply sharing aviation with others. So I want to share with you what I believe is a realistic expectation for getting an instrument rating in 2023. Regardless if you're pursuing flying for a career or simply a hobby, there's no denying an instrument rating will make you a much sharper, more precise pilot, and that's why I highly recommend that every private pilot get their instrument rating. Like your private pilot certificate, once you obtain your instrument rating, you have it for life. It never expires. Yes, there are things you have to do to maintain currency to use it in actual IFR conditions. But the things you learn in training should help you your entire life of flying. In my video last month, I talked about private pilot training costs. What I found to be an average rental rate was around $190 an hour for a Cessna 172. I realize where you live, this number could be different. But for this video, we're going to stick with that same $190 an hour rental rate and $75 an hour flight instructor rate. As you probably know by now, you can train under either Part 61 or 141 rules. The minimum required flight time is slightly less under 141 rules, but seldomly comes into play as most everybody I surveyed took at least a Part 61 minimums to finish their training, regardless of what kind of school they're at. So for these calculations, we'll use the Part 61 rules. These regulations state you must obtain a minimum of 40 hours of actual or simulated instrument flight time. Of that 40 hours, technically you only have to have 15 of that with an instructor. The remaining could be done with a safety pilot who could legally be qualified to be a PIC in that type of airplane. The safety pilot's there to watch for traffic while allowing you to practice instrument procedures under the hood. Is this realistic for most people to obtain their instrument rating with only 15 hours of flight instruction from a CFI? Probably not. In all reality, you'll be hard-pressed to get signed off by any CFI with only 15 hours of dual given. I think flying with a safety pilot's a great idea from time to time, but if you're really serious about getting your instrument rating and getting it in a timely manner, I suggest doing as much of your training possible with your CFI. Unlike in my private pilot video where I told you very few people get their private in the FAA minimum flight time, I actually believe it's much more feasible to pull this off with your instrument rating, provided you're really dedicated to learning, you show up prepared, and you fly often. If you could pull this off with the Part 61 minimums and you did all your training exclusively with the CFI in an actual airplane, it might look like this. 40 hours of Cessna 172 rental at $190 an hour equals $7,600. 40 hours of instrument flight instruction at $75 an hour equals $3,000. Total so far, $10,600. It's not realistic to assume that 100% of your instruction from your CFI is going to happen only when the engine is running. For this type of training to be done effectively, there's going to be some briefing times before most of your flights and a debriefing time after. Some instructors that have a higher hourly rate may not charge you for this, but most places do. You probably experience the same thing on your private. So to keep things realistic, let's assume you obtained the 40 hours over the course of 20 2-hour flight lessons, and there was an additional 30 minutes of ground instruction with each lesson. This would add 10 hours of flight instruction at $75 an hour or $750, bringing the more realistic total to $11,350. Now stay tuned to the end because even though I'm basing this off of an optimistic 40 hours, there is still a valuable way to lower this cost, even more than this. Before that though, let's consider some other expenses that unfortunately often get left off the sales pitch you might hear from the local flight school. Before you finish training and take your check ride, just like your private, you have to successfully complete the FAA knowledge test, often referred to as the written test. To prepare for this test, you're going to need some test prep or ground school of some sort. Most of us that go the Part 61 route end up doing an online self-paced course. This can easily be accomplished for less than $300 and the test itself for $175. So we'll go with $475 for the knowledge or written test. In addition to the ground school and the test, you're going to need some additional supplies and materials. There are numerous books out there on instrument flying, and in all reality, they all say a lot of the same thing. And for that reason, I tend to lean on, what does the FAA say I need to know? And I just purchased the Instrument Flying Handbook and the Instrument Procedures Handbook, along with the current FAR and AIM. These can be downloaded for free from the FAA, which I recommend you have on your iPad. But for studying, it's hard to beat highlighting and tabbing a real book. So these are must-haves if you ask me. And along with the basic books, you're going to need a view limiting device, either a hood or foggles. You're going to need a small knee board if you don't already have one, as well as some charts. All this can be obtained for less than $150. Not required, but highly recommended is a 4-flight subscription for your instrument rating. Most likely, you might already have 4-flight, but if you do not yet, it's worth every penny. Current subscription rates are $120 a year for Basic Plus, which does give you IFR charts. For an additional $120 a year, a total of $240 a year, you can get the Pro Plus, which includes geo-reference charts, approach plates, synthetic vision, hazard alerts, and much more. Trust me when I say these features will become very valuable when for the next 40 hours you can no longer look out the window. I believe in this so much, I'm just going to add it here to the list as another essential if you don't have it already. If the airplane you train in does not have ADS-B, where you can wirelessly connect your iPad to it, to make the most of 4-flight, you're really going to need a portable receiver, a Sentry. This portable GPS and ADS-B receiver will provide you a reliable and independent source of information for your iPad running 4-flight. The Sentry Mini is about $350. The full-featured Sentry with the longer battery life and carbon monoxide detector is $600. Let's assume you do not have ADS-B in your airplane and you go with the full-featured Sentry like I have for $600. I know this sounds like a lot, but I feel confident you'll be really glad that you have it. Again, I'll put links in the description below to all these things to help you find them. Lastly, the actual flight test itself. Once you've completed all your training and you've proven to your CFI that you're ready to take that final FAA check, they will sign you off and you'll schedule the flight test with the examiner. Of course, to do the flight test, you're going to have to rent the plane again. That test should not be more than an hour and a half or so, but it's possible you might have to travel to the examiner's airport. So for this, I'm going to add 2 hours of Cessna 172 rental and $800 for the designated pilot examiner fee. So the whole flight test in the end is probably going to cost about $1,180. Totaling all this up with the 40 hours of dual instruction, the 10 hours of extra instruction before and after your flights, a written prep ground school, the written test itself, supplies, 4-flight subscription, Sentry ADS-B GPS, and a final check ride, you're looking at about $13,995. And remember, this time I did base all this on the minimum 40 hours, which unlike your private is actually achievable. If you're like me, you would be asking, is there anything I can do to lower these costs? The answer is yes, maybe. But remember, it could also take you more than 40 hours if you're not really prepared. Unlike your private pilot training, in addition to possibly lowering your costs by logging some of your experience with the safety pilot, the FAA allows you to obtain up to 20 hours of this required experience in an approved simulator. The simulator rental rates are likely to be significantly less than the airplane rental. This is completely dependent on the availability of an FAA approved simulator at your school. Now to be clear, this isn't Microsoft Flight Simulator at home. This has to be an approved training device. I'm a believer that you can indeed learn valuable things in a simulator and apply those to the real airplane. If a simulator is available to you, give it a try and see if it can replace a little of your training. However, since we're not talking about a level D full motion simulator like we use in the airlines, its effectiveness does have its limits. And no matter how good a simulator is, nothing can replace real world flying in a real airplane, in real airspace, real weather, and real ATC. The very best way you can save money and pull off an instrument rating with the FAA minimums is to show up on time and impeccably prepared for each flight. There is a requirement to have 50 hours of PIC cross-country time also. Don't assume that you're going to get all this during your instrument training. Have the majority of this logged prior to beginning your instrument, and you can make your flights most efficient. Prove to your CFI each and every flight you're hungry for the next objective, and minimize repeats and review. By flying often, like 3 times a week or more, you can make this much more possible than once every few weeks. Take advantage of a few hours with the safety pilot if it makes sense. Maybe do some of the initial basic attitude flying in a lesser expensive plane like a Cessna 152. With a combination of all these factors, it is possible to lower this $14,000 price tag a little bit. But without laser-focused dedication and planning, it's certainly possible these costs could be more as well. Well, that's my honest assessment of what you might expect to pay for an instrument rating in 2023. Let me know how your experiences are so far, and let our community know if you have any additional advice in the comments below. I hope this helped you a little. If so, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. I'll see you in the next one.